Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Looped In with Maritza. My name is Maritza Gertie. I am the National Parents Union Northeast Regional Organizer. It's been a few weeks since the last time I have been able to come on here and share and have discussions with wonderful people that I'm able to come across in this education space. As you all know, I'm from the city of Philadelphia, originally from Brooklyn, New York. Uh, Grew up in Passaic, New Jersey, and have been raising my children and been married to my wonderful husband. I've been in Philadelphia for the past over 30 years. So my affinity towards the Northeast is large, but I also know that I have quite a few counterparts, allies, acquaintances, and friends from across the country, including Puerto Rico. So I hope that those of you that are watching from any of those other places outside of the Northeast know that you have my love, my respect, and my affinity as far as our being like-minded in this fight for educational justice for all of our children, our future citizens, our future caretakers, as I like to affectionately call them. A few things for anyone that is interested in being a part of the National Parents Union. Tickering down below is the website, www.nationalparentsunion.org. It is absolutely free to become a member, whether you are an individual member or an organizational member. It only takes a few minutes to fill out the Google Doc, and you then become a member of the National Parents Union. Becoming a part of the National Parents Union will also give you the opportunity to take advantage of the resources that we have to offer, whether it be toolkits or workshops, our town halls that we're going to be planning for the upcoming new year. Currently, we are going through what is being called the EPIC campaign. For those of you that did not know, family, it is $122 billion that the federal government has allocated and has already begun giving out to school districts across this country. And what we want to make sure is that families and communities understand that you have a right to ask and question how these monies are being spent on our children. We need to make sure that there is not any wasteful spending going on. We have National Parents Union has made it known and has shared when we have gotten information with regards to how this money is being spent, with anywhere from astroturf being put on sporting fields to weight rooms being refurbished. This is not where this money needs to be going. This money needs to go to help support our children that have spent at least 18 months in a very different educational space, who are now trying to navigate how to get themselves reacclimated to being in a classroom, in a school building, not being virtual. So we need to make sure that parents and families and community understand how to ask and what they should ask of their schools, their leaders in their community, their elected officials, and their school districts. If you go onto National Parents Union website and look up the EPIC campaign, there is a detailed step-by-step guideline on how you should be in the know, what questions you can ask, and a pledge from you as an individual with regards to making sure that you are demanding transparency from your school districts, from your elected officials, from your city, from your state, and your child's individual school. Let's see here. What else did I want to talk about? Okay, so they're really, aside from that and being a part of National Parents Union, I'm just also remember the National Parents Union, we do have a page. We have a National Parents Union Facebook page. We have National Parents Union regional pages. But I'd like to remind all of you to also make sure that if you want to be a member, it is two totally different things. Please also become a member of National Parents Union. And if you ever feel that you need to, if you have some questions, maybe you want to find out a little bit more before committing to be a member, which you are within your right to do so. You can send an email to info@nationalparentnpunion.org, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. If you want to send me a direct email, right here, Maritza@npunion.org is where you can send me an email. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions regarding the organization, regarding becoming a member, regarding our campaigns, regarding what is it like to be a part of this organization, what is it like to be a representative from your actual individual state of National Parents Union. We recently, this past fall, inducted new people from across the country to be delegates for the National Parents Union, and we're so excited to work with them to then bring on our new campaign. Is going to be coming this coming January, next month. Is going to be coming around for everyone. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce my next guest, and I will allow him to introduce himself, and we're going to get this conversation started. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Maritza. How's it going?
I am great. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Absolutely. My name is Cam Lewis. I am currently the Chief of Operations in Rochester, New York at the University Preparatory Charter School for Young Men. Glad to be on your show with you.
Thank you
Go
so
Eagles.
much. Yeah, thank you.
I'm an Eagles fan, even though I'm from Rochester.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Oh, that is so nice to hear. I mean, a lot of my folks up top are not going to like that, but I appreciate it. I appreciate seeing another Eagles fan. Absolutely. So, Cam, I got a chance to meet you at the New York State Charter Schools Conference. And as I said when we had a conversation previously, it was you and a lot of your peers, a lot of your fellow educators, a lot of your fellow doctors on a stage talking about the importance of education, talking a little very briefly about your personal experiences. And I told you I was kind of bummed that it wasn't more of a more interactive conversation, because there were so many things that a lot of people, not just me, wanted to ask all of you, but because of the time, it just didn't happen. So I'm very assertive. So I made it my business to introduce myself to you and your colleagues. And, and I reached out and I asked each of you if you would mind having a conversation with me, if you would want to come on my show, and you very graciously accepted, and I appreciate that very much, because you are what our current scholars need, is someone that they can emulate, someone that they can look up to, someone that they can say, I want to be just like him. He's someone that looks like me, so I know if he can do it, I can do it. So, based on what I was able to see in your background, you were very much in making sure that you explained, and it was part of your dissertation, the role of families and organizations in supporting students' needs.
Yes. So yeah, my dissertation was about just understanding how students' perception of their family support really supported their journey, right? Because it's one thing to have that family support where, a lot of families will support their children, push them through. But the other side of that is, do the students understand that they're being supported? And I thought that was very important to explore for a couple of different reasons, because there was theory that was saying that, that wave of understanding support was very important from the perspective of the agent and not from the perspective of the actor. And, I wanted to really make sure that I understood that. I found that a lot of students that I worked with in my personal life, because I've been an educator by trade for 16 years as well. So I have the practical experience as well as, the research side that interests me. Want to understand, like, is this really happening? Do we think it's happening and it's not? And I think the unique thing about it was that I did all that research and it sounded like the family support was intact. And a lot of times the students knew where they needed to go. They knew, my family would support me with X, Y, and Z. They expressed clear understanding of what that looked and felt like. In the school setting, what they showed is that they also knew that there were resources there, but the barrier could be that they might know the support, but they didn't necessarily always perceive the level of care that was similar to what was taking place on the home front. So they get home, and they may communicate a certain way, have certain ways of doing things, and they get into their school settings and they're not consistent, or they don't seem to be consistent. So you might point a child to a resource, but they don't feel like the people behind that really care for them, or they don't have that rapport and that relationship. They were apprehensive to pursue it. So I think that really spoke to the need for a holistic conversation between families and what they're giving the youth, so that the school settings can actually like mimic that, understand that, or relate to that, or all of the above. And that was really powerful for me, especially having defended my dissertation recently. I'm a couple days from a year out. I defended last year on the 14th of December. So I got 4 days for my year anniversary. But, just thinking about going through COVID, families actually taking the lead on their child's education because they were remote. They know through and through what a child needs. Now they're also adopting the educational support on a daily basis. So at the time when I defended and finished, that was like a very strong premise for me, is that, now education has become a part of the home even more than it was before. Mm-hmm. So if we're not listening to what the parents are doing, what the families are experiencing, then we're really doing ourselves a disservice as an educational institution. Because now more than ever, and we should have been doing this forever, and some do, but holistically we weren't. But if we don't have that conversation now, then when will we have it?
Oh, so, yeah. So number one, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Number two, I think it's great that you recognize that there was a need for this type of information to be shared. Mm-hmm. As a parent advocate, as an education advocate, I actually was in a meeting today where a parent said, I'm a very involved parent, but it's just me. And I don't have the time to wait for other parents to make themselves available. And he said, now, don't get me wrong, I understand people have different work schedules, but we have to be, he said it, and I agreed with him, we have to be intentional with what we want for our children. And part of that may be say, okay, I may not be able to make that 9 a.m. meeting, parent meeting, but if I have a conversation with my child's teacher or with the school counselor or with the school principal and say, hey, can you offer an alternative for the working parents? Can you offer something in the evening? Mm-hmm. Can you offer something on a Saturday morning or early afternoon? Mm-hmm. I mean, I know so many people that, they just shut everything down on the weekends, but I know a lot more that'll say, you know what? Although I'm an educator, although I'm an administrator, I'll take a Saturday, maybe just one. I'll commit one Saturday a month. Mm-hmm. Well, I have what can be called weekend office hours, where I'll turn on my computer, I'll have it open for 2 hours for my Zoom, and let parents drop in. And I let them come in, and we can talk about how we can better help that scholar. Mm-hmm. And that way I'll know we can have that conversation. And it can't be said that I never had any kind of communication. As a parent, they made it available for me to be able to talk to me about my concerns regarding my child's education. And for that administrator or that educator, that teacher, they can say, you know what, mom and dad did, try to communicate with me. Because not everyone can do class dojo. I mean, you do middle school and high school, but elementary is it's all about class dojo. Yeah. Not every parent can do class dojo. Not every parent has the time. Not every parent may have a phone. Mm-hmm. But all of our students were given Chromebooks to take home. So there, and then the hope is that there's Wi-Fi access. So doing that, I mean, trying to do that. If it can't be a Zoom open call on the weekend, maybe it can be on Saturdays from 11 to 1, feel free to call me. Let's set a time. Yeah. Let's set a time. Let's set an appointment. Here's my availability. All those parents that can at least call me as an educator or administrator, call me up and let's have a conversation, even if it's just over the phone.
Yep.
If
Yeah.
you can't, and if you can't come to the school in the morning, maybe once a month, I'll stay until 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
For those parents that get off work at 4 or 5, and you can come in and we can talk. Because the last thing, I mean, I don't, I share this. I worked in a school building last school year. I know that I've seen teachers run out the building at about 3:30. They out.
Yep.
Bye. I got my own family to take care of, and that's great. But I do know that if there's enough interest from their students' parents, they say, "Listen, I don't get off work till 4 o'clock. I promise you, I'll be at the school. Can we talk?"
Mm-hmm.
I feel that it has to be a transparent and a fluid conversation. A relationship can be built, but you have to meet people where they are.
Yep.
On both ends.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you are hitting the nails right on the head. Like it definitely requires mutual responsibility. All educators are not created equally. It's the same as any other line of work. You're gonna have some that are gonna bust their butt, day in and day out. You're gonna have some that they're gonna operate exactly on the clock, maybe even with less hours than they're supposed to, and that's just the nature of the beast. But I think that there is an opportunity for schools to be proactive with some of this, right? Like we know that if we offer some things in advance, like parents are busy, families have a lot going on. Some of our students may be athletes, et cetera, whether it's in school, out of school, whatever the case may be. So I think there is definitely opportunity to be proactive with some of this. And for an example, a Saturday offering for a Zoom or a phone call. Like we can still do phone calls. We don't have to always do Zoom, but to be accessible on a weekend time, we could do that in advance, and I think that would be beneficial to families. And I think to your other point, for families, if there's the wherewithal to advocate for these needs, if it's not already happening, because it should, but if it's not, I think there does need to be like a mutual push for doing the right thing. It's a relationship. It's just like, you said you're married, and I'm sure better than me, in your relationship, you both got to be doing that work. It's not as though like one of you doing all of the work and the other one's being reactive and waiting. That's the same way it goes for us. So like we got to push and say, hey, you know what? We realize that you may not be able to attend this parent conference or whatever it is during this time. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to offer an alternative time, or if you want to reach out, we'll make ourselves available to meet your schedule. And at the same token, people should be pushing and saying, I really want to know how I can know how my child is doing. Maybe I can come in during this time. Maybe, we can set up this. These are my best times of availability. Let's make it work, and I think that's how we got to look at it. We all got to work to get it done for our kids.
Absolutely. Because I look at the meeting I attended today, a school of over 500 students. And the meeting that we had five parents. So I was like, okay. I mean, the last time it just had 2 parents. So we incremented in 1 month 3 more parents, which is, it's not perfect, but hey, it was, for me, I was like, okay, we can work with this. If this is what we have, we can work with this. We can also do a little bit more to let the families know, during this time, we're going to make sure you have a meal if that's a concern. During this time, we're going to make sure that your children are okay. If that's a concern. If the majority of the folks that want to attend say I work, well, let's set up that Zoom call. Let's set up that evening or late afternoon meeting to allow people to come. And I said, listen, parents are there for drop off by 8:45. Have the meeting at 9.
Right.
Have it at 9 when they're right there.
Right.
So they don't have to leave, because once I leave, I don't want to come back unless I have to. So let's do that. So it's a lot of brainstorming and involved. And I also want to touch upon the importance of making sure that our children have someone that they can count on in the school. And I saw that. I wanted to ask you how important you see mentoring is for our children. In school, they can have that favorite teacher that may not be their actual grade teacher. So how, in your opinion, how important is it for a child or a student to say, you know what, I have my go-to person at school if I can't reach out to my directly to my main teacher. How important
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll if you will indulge me for a minute, I'll just take it back to myself, even though, it's been years since I've been in school. But I know that when I run into people from my high school, they would never guess that I would be a PhD or a school administrator. And rightfully so, because at 16, 17 and throughout, I wouldn't have expected that. I did not like school. I was one of those kids, academically sound. I definitely had my moments of challenge, but was just dealing with a lot personally at home in my neighborhood. And it showed in my interest and engagement in school and in the classroom specifically. But school was my safe space. My other alternatives were things that I just wasn't put on this earth to do, and would have wound me up in a different circumstance, maybe not even alive. But I had people in my school building, a basketball coach, just other teachers that I never even had classes with that just maybe saw something in me. The lunch lady, there was a bunch of different people where I felt like, if nothing else, they believed in me. And I think that's where we need to go. And that's what we need to sustain. So when you talk about mentorship, I'm at an all boys school now, but I've worked in co-ed schools as well. And from the perspective of being an adult that tries to instill that in our youth, you see the difference. I'm at a stage now in my life where I have young adults that have worked with me that are working in schools now, and they give me those types of props, and I'm humbled by it. But, it means a lot that they felt they had someone. It's not because it's me, but it's just the acknowledgement of someone. And in the same token, I also still have people that I see that I remember like being the reason that I went on to college or the reason that I survived high school, so I agree it's totally important. And maybe a formal way to do that would be where we should go in the future.
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And you mentioned, you discussed and you recently getting your doctorate, and in a time of COVID, the height of it, because we're still in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you could briefly talk about how was that experience for you? Did anything change from the previous year?
Mm-hmm.
Before the world shut down,
Mm-hmm.
what's Dr. Lewis? What was Cam's schedule like? And then what was it that you had to shift
Yeah.
to be able to achieve being able to get your dissertation? And I ask this because there are a lot of people out there that are still working on their dissertation,
Mm-hmm.
that have not gotten to the point where they're able to then submit it finally to then say they're going to defend it. Or
Mm-hmm.
there are people that are thinking about, hey, I just got my master's and maybe I want to go down that road and I'm not sure. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's interesting for me because the dissertation process, I was a long time PhD student because I've always worked. I did a residency year, but I've been full time outside of that. So I've always been in somebody's school working in some education while doing my research or doing my, my required courses. The blessing of COVID was that I had more time because we were all originally remote and shut down. And I've never had that much time where it's like you can't socialize. You weren't going into the building to work. So in some ways, COVID was really something that, you know, whatever you believe in, whoever you believe in, I felt blessed to have that time to just focus, eliminate some of the distractions or some of the responsibilities, and be able to have that time and do it. That was monumental for me. I was so close already to being at the end, but it was just that focus time where it's like nothing. I did nothing else and had no opportunity to do much else for a chunk of time. The other thing that COVID did for me was give me a new perspective. Partway through, I want to say, so I was an administrator already at a different charter school. We decided we were going to go in person a lot earlier than some of the other urban schools. And across that time, we were making a lot of mistakes. I mean, COVID is new. How you navigate hybrid learning and all of that was just different. And how you communicate that to families was so different. You know, I was on a nonstop apology tour with families. I was talking to families all the time. And it was just like, I was really getting to see their perspective. They would enlighten us to so much that we weren't even thinking about, right? Like, nobody's experienced COVID before, or a pandemic that shut us down completely, and then trying to bounce back from that, where kids are with their families, they need technology, they need internet access, they need adults that can actually monitor them, because we're doing it from Zoom or whatever other platform. If it was not for the regular communication that we were getting from families about like how we were communicating, how we were supporting, when we were providing resources, how we were delivering those resources, we would have been stuck early on. And being able to listen to families, apologize, make educated decisions based on the feedback that they provided was just a timely reminder for me that like this is definitely a partnership. And I pride myself on being someone who's felt that way for a long time, but it was a way to experience it in real time like I had never done before. A lot of times you can get ahead of a lot of that because education has been what it is for years, right? Like we more or less know what we do. You know, kids come into the classroom, they learn, blah, 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 they go home. This was so different. And if you're going to have systemic and instrumental change, it's not happening without all stakeholders. And it was just a reminder. So, you know, in my conclusion and in the end of my dissertation presentation, I was just talking about how that part of my process, which wasn't academic, it was actually professional, really shaped how I understood my dissertation and research a lot more. So, you know, without having that, you know, I feel like I would have been limited in what I thought future research or just future existence in education should look like.
Wow. So, because now you're an admin at your school,
Mm-hmm.
based on your research and your experience
Mm-hmm.
as an educator, how have you been helping the educators in your school deal with like burnout and the possibility of the great migration of people exiting the teaching profession because they're
Mm-hmm.
like, I need to know. I want to hear from an admin, how they've been able to support
Yeah.
their teachers and keeping them in the field that they say that they love, that they've committed to be in.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll be 100% honest. This is something that I'm actively working on, along with the other leaders that I work with. And just for some context, I was at a different charter. I opened up a new middle school for one charter organization, which was a great experience. But the output of that afforded me an opportunity for a promotion to be a chief operating officer with a different school, and that's just how it works. But I think that most of us understand that in this time it's very important to keep the people you cherish the most, and that's your staff, your students, your families, right? So you want to keep them happy as best as possible. So we've really tried to dive into one, just being very appreciative and thankful at all times, right? And it sounds strange to say, but those are the first things that go out the window, right? We're all busy. We get into a school day now, everybody's doing their thing, and you forget the value of like a thank you or hey, listen, I know coverage is crazy today. You're covering 2 more classes than normal. Thank you. It means a lot, right? I think that those are the first things that go on a day-to-day basis, but those are also the things that people notice when they feel they're unappreciated. They're not
Yeah.
getting those thank yous. People aren't understanding that they're working their butts off. So we really tried to ground ourselves and being appreciative of all of our people. And the same thing for our students, thank you for wearing your mask. Thank you for, coming in uniform. Thank you for coming. We
Yes.
want to always remind them that we understand what's going on out here. The other thing is we've tried to be strategic just with like our scheduling now. So in terms of, some strategic days where staff have time to regroup, maybe they're getting out a little earlier, students have time to just catch up on work. We're doing things like that. And we've reinvigorated our sunshine committee. When I got here, I saw a bulletin and it had like the sunshine committee listed. Started asking people like, hey, who's on the sunshine committee? And they're like, we haven't had this in operation for years. So we have been very intentional about having that committee come back, not only for staff, but for students as well, but coming with ideas of innovative things to do. How can we save our staff time in the building when they're not with students? Can we be more efficient with our professional developments? Can we be more engaging with that stuff? So there's a couple things we want to do. We want to make sure that staff voices are being heard. Staff feel like they are engaged when they are getting any form of development, and that they're also having fun. There was no budget set for this, so we're just going to make it work, you know. So there's just some things that we're trying to do. The other thing that we're really working on is making sure that all of our benefits are in alignment. And I'm not at liberty to go too far in depth with that, but just making sure that the things we set out originally in this charter still make sense and are adequately supporting all of our staff, from, you know, a DEI lens as well as just like a practicality lens. Like, does it make sense for staff to have less resources, or could we actually boost these, and should we boost these immediately?
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
not wait. You know, if we value them, let's communicate that we value them. And luckily, I work with a team that is all about it. So,
oh my
we're
gosh,
working,
and that's wonderful, and I love hearing that, because one thing I've realized, and this was before even I had the experience of working in a school. Don't just show your appreciation during Teacher Appreciation Week. That's just 1 week out the school year. I you know, and I'm always been a lover of the little things. So even if it means, you know, something that a parent or a guardian likes to do, if it's buying a huge box of snacks and taking it to the school, giving it to the teacher and saying, here, this is for your students, for the teachers, for those of us that like to cook, taking some food to the school, for those that like to knit, you know, knit some hats and take them to the school to give them to the teachers, you know, anything that shows appreciation, and not just around a holiday, not just around a specific appreciation week. I mean, a text message saying thank you for tolerating my child, because I know how my child is at home. So I'm quite sure they are the same way in school. And parents know what parents, you know what I mean. I mean, I'm a mother of 6. Two grown, a teenager, but I have 3 little ones that I know that all 3 of them are a piece of work, between being a comedian and then being just off the hook. I know this. So I'm always like, I as a parent, I stay in close contact with the teachers, and I ask them, you know, how are you doing? And how is my child doing? Because it's important to ask. It's very important to ask. And, you know, we're all human and we all have lives outside of our work. So I think it's absolutely wonderful that you have taken, you're committed, you and your team are committed to also make sure that the teachers are okay. Because it's like anything else. If you have a family unit and there are family members in your home that are not happy, the home is not happy.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer of, if the teacher in the classroom is not okay, that classroom is not going to be okay. That it's going to be a dysfunction in the classroom.
Yeah, you got me over here taking notes. I don't know if you see me keep turning.
I see you.
Listen, I'm taking notes because nothing is off the table here.
Hey, listen,
you got, you know, I think that we need to implement here.
Absolutely, and that's why I say, you know, in my role, I love the fact that I'm able to interact. Because wherever, you know, and it's not just with parents and families, it's also with educators, because a lot of them don't know. A lot of them may have not, you know, a lot of educators do have families at home, but some of them do not. And especially for the ones that don't, it's really good for them to hear different scenarios, different antidotes, so that they can then draw from that and say, you know what? Maybe that's going on in my classroom, or you know what? Maybe this student's family is going through this, so I can I've heard this situation before. I may not be an expert at it. I can't say I know what you're talking about, because that's something that people cannot stand. Be empathetic but not sympathetic. That's what I always say. But if you know that you have an administration behind you that's willing to support you, the teacher will do nothing but thrive and be encouraged in helping all their scholars in the classroom.
Yes.
Because they're gonna feel that support. And when you feel that support, you feel re-energized daily, weekly. Like I said, not just around Teacher Appreciation Week, you know, when those PDs come around, that it's PDs, And for those, I hate acronyms. So professional development days on which parents may squawk and say, why does my child have half a day today? It is because your child's teachers are being offered trainings to help make them better. And in making them better, they are better for your children in the classroom.
Yes.
So that's what folks really also need to understand, that if you don't come from that education space, a lot of times everyone needs to be re-educated, and it needs to be like an information session to explain to families why things happen the way they do, why there's a certain schedule, why they have half a day every week. Parents are like, why is this necessary? This is why, because sometimes, although they went to school to get a degree and then went through a certification process, people that are continuously learning are then able to better teach your children.
Wow. You make excellent points there, because, I think we definitely get lost in that sometimes, or maybe we've communicated it once at the beginning of the year or years ago. I think grounding it with that background each time does make sense, because a lot of times what will happen is once a situation or issue escalates, a parent may come into my office or call, and then I explain to them the background why. They understand. They understand, and maybe they don't agree, maybe they do, but I feel like there's that level of understanding helps in some way, whether or not people believe that. And I think there's definitely room to be more proactive with that each time, where it's just like, hey, remember, or this is the reason why these things are happening. So given that baseline level of understanding, it really can change things.
Absolutely. So that's why it's very important for school administrators to have an open door policy and make sure and be intentional about having discussions with the families. It shouldn't just be around report card time. It shouldn't just be when something, like you said, when a crisis comes up at the school. It should be a relationship that is developed throughout the entire school year, from right before school starts. It should happen monthly. And then, that way the families and the children are saying, you know what? Our school always lets us be in the know. We're always in the know. We're not, we don't find out things after the fact. And when decisions need to be made that will affect the students, families are a part of the conversation. Because the worst thing, Cam, is for families to find things out, and they're like, wait a minute, when was this decision made? When was this decision made? And why weren't we informed? And many of us that live in these, in urban districts, that is a big thorn in our side. And that's why, unfortunately, a lot of families do not want to be involved. They don't want to establish a relationship with the school. They're like, you have my child. Okay, I'm going to work. But then when something happens, or they're not happy with the child's report card, it becomes I don't call it a complaint. I call it a concern.
Right.
It becomes a concern that then gets escalated. And what we try to, me personally, what I like to see is, if I see people that are struggling, it may just be that they have an issue with being able to articulate to that administration at that school their concern about their child or children. And they may not, maybe from a previous experience that they may have had themselves in their, what I call their school career.
Wow.
The thought of approaching a school or going to a school office or talking to an administrator, the principal, the COO, the director, it intimidates them.
Absolutely.
Because they may have a negative memory of something happening to them as a student, a memory of something happening to their parents when their parents went to the school for them. So it's something that because I love parent engagement and community engagement, it's always been something where I'm like, listen, we have to communicate better. We have to talk better. So if it means an information session, and that's continuous, so that families can know and understand this is what the school can provide. These are the resources they can provide. These are the organizations we've partnered with that can also help you provide things. we can all work together, and that's another piece that I was interested when you said that the importance of, and making sure your key coaching and consulting,
Mm-hmm.
in which I see here that you indicated that it empowers educators and leaders to invest in their true potential and encourage organizations to help. Like, everything should not be, I'm only going to do it if I get X amount of dollars. Okay,
Right.
money is a good thing, and we do need money to survive. But when you think about the investment in people and the importance of that investment in people in order to help them provide the services that our children need, all the people that hold the purse strings in the districts, and I'm a swing this back to the funds that have become available
Mm-hmm.
from the federal government to help districts across. Now, I don't know, and I'm not going to ask specifically numbers as far as what was allocated to your school,
Right.
but I can give an example about my children's school. When we just asked my children's school what was done with the monies that were allocated to the school.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out today that the principal asked the teachers, what do you think our children need? They didn't ask the
Wow.
parents,
Mm-hmm.
but they asked the teachers. But what the teachers said is, and I appreciate it, they said, we need more teachers. We need coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they invested in a literacy coach, an attendance coach for the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get a BCA, which I don't know if you know what a BCA is. It's a
No.
bilingual counseling assistant.
Oh,
Someone
yeah.
that's bilingual
Mm-hmm.
that can help, depending on the population of your school. So for me, that makes sense. They saw a need in that school building that would best support the children at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And being able to have a literacy coach for our children that need help with their literacy, being able to have an attendance coach to help with the attendance issues of the staff,
Mm-hmm.
which then enables all the teachers that have a schedule to be able to teach their children without having to pull from here and take from there for coverage.
Mm.
It's for the benefit of the staff and the children at the school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense. But this is something that has to be relayed to the families.
Yeah.
So next meeting, hopefully more parents will come. We're going to explain this is where the money went.
Got you.
And it wasn't wastefully spent. Like I don't know if you've seen news articles out there. In the Midwest, a school decided to returf their playing field.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or another school decided to refurbish their weight room.
Yeah.
No, that is not where that money should have been going.
Mm-hmm.
It should have been going to either do the things I just gave an example of, or get more counselors, social workers, school nurse, special education specialists, all of the things that our children need, as well as the teachers. So tell me a little bit more about the key coaching and consulting. What is it that you guys do to help people be at their best, and what they're doing as being educators and leaders?
Well, I think the big push right now is awareness and accountability. And I think that's where we are. It's so interesting that you talked about the potential for negative experiences for families and parents to impact the relationship with the school if we allow it to, right?
Yeah.
Because that has come up in so many of the sessions and conversations I've had recently with other educators, family members, and schools themselves. It's so true. It's so realistic. And I think, for me, it really became more clear when I started to see people that I went to school with who were now coming into schools to advocate for their children and not doing it in the best way. But me having the background to know, like, I know what your experience was like as a youth because we went through it together. So I understand more of why you may be perceived a certain way, because of how you're, expressing yourself. But really, let's talk about the need that's there. It's not as much about, what you are showing. It's about, like, what's the root of this? The root is, like you said, the uncertainty, the fear, the negative experiences that have taken place in the past. So what are we doing to support those needs, and also to assist your child and make sure that we have a better relationship moving forward? And I think that, strange as it is, it's a light bulb moment for educators, even if they're parents themselves, right? A lot of educators, for whatever reason, can be people who either they've successfully navigated, right? They some people are just like, they came up, they did well in school, they kind of went through and made it happen. And then there's people that maybe are more like me, where didn't have great experiences, but at some point something clicked, regardless of what it was, something clicked. So we don't always have the memory to say like, all right, well, it's not for everybody, right? And everybody's experience is different, and we have to take a moment to understand that in advance and be very intentional about like how we're going to support that. It's easy to say like, oh, they came in with an attitude, it's on them, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But it's really not on them. And we have to be like, if we're truly educators and committed to our community, which is bigger than just the building that we operate from, then that's a level of support that we have to extend ourselves to, you know.
Absolutely.
So when I'm thinking about key coaching and consulting, it's definitely about, what we talk about in our school building is change the narrative. Our CEO says that all the time, but he's a great guy. And I love that. And I bring that into key as well. But not only just changing the narrative, but, really thinking outside the box, being introspective, but also like putting ourselves in the shoes of others. So we have to be very intentional about what we're doing. And we're talking about our own leadership model. For individuals that we work with, you have to be that person that's going to change whatever's going on in your landscape, right? Where I work, I'm responsible. Like, I got to do stuff about what I don't like or what may be fundamentally wrong about where we are. It means nothing bad about where I work. It just means that there's certain changes that need to happen, and I have to push that or be willing to be a part of that. That's what we're trying to encourage with Key. At an organizational level, hey, put your money where your mouth is what it comes down to. Put your money where your mouth is, invest in what you think makes a difference. If you say it makes a difference, put it in writing and use your paycheck.
There you go.
That's really what it comes down to. And sometimes getting people to establish the appreciative inquiry to understand, right? Like, I can tell you that that's wrong, but when I get you to understand that it's wrong or that there needs to be that shift, that's when we can really get that legwork going. And I think that that's what it's about. We're really trying to push that.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And see, that's the thing. That is the thing. And that's why it's very important for everyone to understand, especially those folks that are responsible for their children's school buildings,
Mm-hmm.
is that you have to make it a space where when a family goes into your building, from the moment they walk in the door, they feel welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
That they feel welcomed. So from the moment they come in the door, they feel welcomed. Whether or not they have a school resource officer at the door, that school resource officer or that person that's at that front desk has to be a friendly person.
Absolutely.
That school secretary has to be a friendly person.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about how you're received. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing worse than walking into a building or any building, even if it's not a school building, and meeting up with a person who doesn't even say good morning or good afternoon. How can I help you?
Mm.
And there's nothing worse than being left there standing for
Mm.
minutes before you're even acknowledged as
Mm.
being standing there. So, and that's where it starts. Start off on a good foot and being friendly and just being receptive and open. I think that in itself helps to calm whatever anxieties that adult walking in that building that may have not been in a school building for years and is now
Wow.
coming in for an issue. I think that would help them tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't like that, but this is why people like you and I are around to let them know, hey, this has to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to change, because it's just the worst feeling in the world. You would never want to hear in a schoolyard, you would never want to hear in hindsight, not even ear hustling, somebody said, I can't stand going in that building because every time I go in there, so-and-so just has an attitude.
Yep.
That's like the worst thing in the world. That's
Yep.
like, whoo. So it's, as you know, I'm old. I don't know if I'm old enough to be your mom, but I'm 50. So I remember walking into a building with my mother, and they talked about it because she didn't speak English well.
Wow.
And they said about me, oh well, she's probably one of them kids that's gonna need, special education or ESL classes, because look at her name, or she's probably gonna be an issue. Maybe she's she's a behavioral issue. And when they call my former school straight A student, never been absent,
Right.
guess what? So it's, they assumptions were made just because my mom is from another country, which should never happen to anybody whatsoever. Cam, can you believe all this time has flown by so quickly?
Hey, it's been a pleasure, though.
It's
Definitely
been almost an hour. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I want to thank you so very much for giving of your time, for talking to me. If you want to shout out your school,
Yes.
feel free to do so. What's the name of the school?
University Preparatory Charter School for Young Men in Rochester, New York. Maritza, I'm humbled by the opportunity to even talk, and I learned so much from you today. So I appreciate you for that.
No, we're gonna talk some more whenever you have my information. You can reach me whenever you need me. Like I said, after the first of the year, I plan on doing a tour of many states, many communities. So if you want us to come out to your school and speak to your educators, speak to your families, just let us know. We can work that out, because that's what it's about. Us, talking to each other from the same point of reference. It's about the children. And that's what it's about. No matter what adult issues are going on, it's about the education of our children and making sure they're able to do so in an equitable and safe environment. You are doing amazing work, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you.
You enjoy your holidays with your family. You stay safe. And we'll be talking again soon. If you want to hang out a little bit while I give my closing remarks, feel free to do so. If not, it was a pleasure, and we will talk soon.
All right. You do the same. Enjoy, be healthy, be safe, and I look forward to connecting with you. I got to jump off, but so glad to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Family, thank you so much for tuning in to another Looped In with Maritza. I hope that this conversation was informative, inspirational, educational. And again, if you are interested in being a part of the National Parents Union, please log on to the website, www.nationalparentsunion.org. Please do not forget, it is free to be a member. You can be an individual member. You can be an organizational member. If you are part of an organization and you feel that we are in the same lane, have the same train of thought, have the same desires for our future leaders, our future citizens, our future caretakers, let us know. Reach out. You can send me an email, or you can send an email to info@npunion.org for more information on being a part of the National Parents Union. Families, please stay safe. Continue to wear a mask. If you are able to do so and choose to, get the vaccine. If you choose not to, please bear in mind that we also want you to be safe. So just continue to wear a mask around others as well to keep them safe. We all want to make sure that we usher in the new year as healthy as possible. I want to see everybody that I've seen and met and had a chance to communicate with and have conversations with. I want to see them again next year and for years to come. Again, there is the National Parents Union Facebook page, also the National Parents Union regional pages. I'm a part of the National Parents Union Northeast region page. There is a Southwest page. There is a Midwest page. There is a Southern page. There is Texas as well. So go look up National Parents Union. You'll be able to see all the possibilities that you'll be able to be a part of. And, what can people do? Be a part of the ESSER campaign. Look it up. The EPIC campaign. Look it up on the National Parents Union website. There is a plethora of information there. There is actually 10 questions that you can print out or save to your phone. 10 questions that are very important that you can ask when it comes to what is going on with the ESSER funds. If you have, if you don't know how to formulate what it is you want to ask, many questions have already been there. They're at your fingertips that you can ask of your school district. You can ask of your child's school so you can be better informed with regards to what is being done with monies that are being allocated to the schools in the district that your child's school is a part of. Also, you could pledge to make sure that everyone around you understands the importance of understanding the EPIC campaign and understanding your right to be informed and being part of the decision making, making sure that you are at that table where these discussions are being had. All of these things are explained fully when you go onto the National Parents Union website and click on the EPIC campaign tab. Again, thank you so very much for giving of your time to listen to this episode of Looped In with Maritza. Until the next time, thank you very much.